you. I don't know how all of y'all knew it was my birthday. I guess maybe social media. I don't get on there as much. And today, this was just my focus. So I'm just so glad that you are here. I got to see so many new faces and faces that I haven't seen for a while. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being online. It's going to be, Sundays are good days, right? I'm wondering, though, if you all had a good Christmas. Was it good? Wait. That was kind of imbalanced. But I get it. The holidays can, they can have their ups and downs. But I actually have another question. Who still has their Christmas decorations still up? Okay, a lot of you do. Okay. I love Christmas decorations. I think I told y'all earlier this year that I put ours up way before Christmas. I mean, this year I did wait until after Halloween. I did put them up one year before Halloween, and trick-or-treaters totally made fun of us because you could see all the trees and all the lights. I'm like, well, you can be a hater. But I love Christmas decorations, and I know some of you would leave them up year-round, or at least through February. Pastor Rudy sure would if Charlene would let him, but you didn't even get to see very many of your decorations this year because y'all are in Maui. But I love them. I love Christmas decorations, but I do go back and forth on when do I want to take them down, because like Lisa said, some of you know it's my birthday, so I'd kind of like to keep Christmas and my birthday separate, and it's always like, Merry birthday, but I like to keep it kind of separate, or I like just a fresh start to a new year. I like things to be in their place, so I never really know when I want to take them down, but then I miss the lights and all of those fun things when I do take them down. Maybe this is a little bit of a conflict for you too, and maybe for different reasons, because sometimes holidays are hard. They're stressful, and you are just ready to be done with them by the end of Christmas or the end of New Year's. I completely understand that this year. I'm still missing my mom. I miss her a little bit more on my birthday. Not all the things in my family are the way that I wish they were, and I know some of you can relate to that too. So it can kind of put a different tone on the holiday and on Christmas. It kind of just puts this little shadow over it, even though we all know that it's a beautiful time. And I was actually reading that the National Alliance on Mental Illness, they say that 64% of the people that during the holidays, their mental health, it's even more challenging for them. And I was thinking about that, and I'm not fantastic at math, but even I know that's more than half of these people that are maybe already struggling, and it can magnify loss and loneliness and unmet expectations, and I think it can just kind of carry this weight that we carry around when we feel like we shouldn't be. It should all be joyful, but we're still carrying this weight. Or maybe for you, you are just really tired of Christmas music or all those blow-up decorations that are in people's yards. I get that too. I don't like all Christmas songs, and some of the blow-up decorations can be a lot. And flamingos. Do y'all see the flamingos in people's yards? I don't get that. But maybe there's flamingos in Israel. I don't know. I've never been there. But however the holidays were for you, I really hope that you found a moment or two just to feel some joy and all those things that we hear about in the Christmas songs that we should be experiencing at Christmas time, because I really want that for you guys. I think you deserve it. But I think that we all also know that the beauty of the season, it's not just in the songs and the decorations. The beauty, it comes from the difference that Jesus makes in our lives. And the beauty in all the areas, the good, the bad, the hardships, beauty for ashes and ashes, we've all heard that the verse. So it's hard, but Jesus can make a difference no matter what. So as we wrap up this year, I think it gives us a chance just to reflect on what was good, what was bad, what would we change, what would we never ever want to do again. I have a few of those moments. And how do we hold on to the hope of what Christmas is supposed to be while we anticipate what the new year is bringing us? Especially, like I said, when some of us are carrying some of those things still that just kind of weigh down on our hearts. Because I think it can be easy just to kind of stay stuck in that struggle. And it doesn't only follow us around, I think it can feel like it starts to define us, like we are those things. But the reality is, the new year is coming whether we are ready for it or not. It's going to be here in just a couple of days. But I'm not talking about New Year's resolutions right now. That's a whole nother thing. I'm talking about the things that we want to see in our lives, the things that should be in our lives. Which brings me to what I am talking about today. I'm going to be talking about how do we enter into this new year with a sense of expectation that God is at work in our lives no matter what. And what does that mean for us? Because I think that no matter where you're at in your faith, I think for the most part, we all want to change for the better. I hope. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of us that go, man, how much worse can I make this for myself? But I mean, it happens out there. But I know there can also be a certain comfort in staying with what's familiar. But I believe that if we take a look at ourselves, when we really reflect on our lives, there is just a desire to grow. I mean, Jesus came into the world. He brought life. He wanted to bring change. He came into this world to transform lives, to transform my life, to transform your life. So I'm going to just look at a couple of people in the Bible just to kind of show what that transformation can look like. And I'm going to start with Mary Magdalene. And there are several Marys in the Bible, so I get that it can get confusing, but Mary Magdalene, she is one of the women who traveled with Jesus. She helped support his ministry, and she wasn't a person that had it all together. I mean, she had a lot of different things going on. She had a past full of pain and struggle and hardship, and she was possessed by 7 demons. But Jesus cured her. And later, she had a very pivotal role in witnessing Jesus at his resurrection. Look, I'll show you. This is John 20, 16 through 18. So this is right after Jesus he's risen from the dead. I can't even say it. I'm so excited about it, which I imagine is what she saw when she saw him, because she's there at his grave, and then there's Jesus, and he says, "Mary." And she turned toward him and said in Hebrew, "Rabboni." This means teacher. "Do not hold on to me," Jesus told her, "because I have not yet gone back up to the Father. But go to my brothers and tell them that I am returning to him who is my Father and their Father, my God and their God." So Mary Magdalene went and told the disciples that she had seen the Lord and related to them what he had told her. I love, one of my favorite things in this verse is how Jesus is saying, my Father and their Father, my God and their God, because I think it really just shows the oneness that we have with Jesus. But I also love how in this verse, he's giving Mary purpose. I mean, he tells her to go and tell. So she got to share the message of the resurrection. It didn't matter what kind of past she had or any of that. She got to be the one to watch Jesus come out of that grave and then share it with the disciples. That's just awesome. But maybe you can kind of identify with Mary in some ways too. Maybe you have faced struggles or you just kind of feel like, I am just barely getting by today. I'm just surviving this like hour by hour, not even day by day. Or you have felt unworthy, or that things that you have done are just, they are unredeemable. Maybe you don't feel valuable. But Jesus saw the potential in Mary, and he sees the potential in you too. And in the same way that he changed Mary's story, he will change your story too. But Jesus didn't just change the lives of demon-possessed people. So let's look at Matthew. He's kind of one of my favorites in The Chosen, if you're watching that, and I realize that The Chosen is not the Bible. But I just love his character. I can identify a lot with Matthew. Matthew was a tax collector, and he was living this really comfortable life. And he could have stayed in that routine. But when Jesus called him, Matthew left everything behind, and he chose to follow a purpose that Jesus was giving him, a much greater purpose than he had ever known. Can you imagine? I mean, I have a hard time. I can be kind of spontaneous, but there are times when Drake's like, hey, I'm going to be in the car. And I'm standing there going, wait, what do I need? Do I have 5 crowns? Are we going to play games? I stand there looking all around. But when Jesus called Matthew, Matthew just went. Jesus' call to Matthew represents a moment of transformation where a man who was living this very comfortable life, and I'm going to say maybe an even unsatisfying life, was invited to something far greater. And then Matthew ends up becoming one of Jesus' closest followers. And something else that I can I don't know if Matthew was like this or not, but I am a self-proclaimed creature of comfort girl. So I have a deep appreciation for Matthew just getting up and leaving. Like I said, I would kind of want to have things planned out a little bit. So it's hard for me to try and do the things that I feel God leading me to do sometimes. Because I kind of want to stay where it's comfortable. It's hard to be up here today. I know that there are people out there, maybe you're one of them, that think that a woman should not be up here teaching. Women shouldn't even be in a leadership role. So it's hard to still get up and do the things that you feel God leading you to do when there's opposition. But Matthew did it, even though he was facing opposition from the Pharisees, he still went. So I'm up here today too. Thanks for staying. Maybe you're like Matthew. Maybe you're sitting in a comfort zone, or maybe it doesn't even feel like a comfort zone. Maybe you just feel like you can't possibly add anything else to what you're doing, or you don't know what you would take away so that you could do something else. Or maybe you just feel insecure in things, or maybe you haven't even thought about changing or considering that God might have more for you. Maybe you just don't want to. But both Matthew and Mary, they had a choice in their transformation. Neither one of them was perfect. And they could have said, no, or maybe come back Tuesday, and then I'll think about it. But both decided to follow Jesus and activate the purpose that he had for them. They chose to let go of their past struggles or their disappointments, their comfort zones, opposition, and they stepped into the calling that Jesus had for them. And maybe you're thinking, that sounds great. I'll think about it. But you got to remember, Jesus was right in front of Mary and Matthew. We don't have Jesus right in front of us saying, hey, you should do this or come. So it can feel a little more difficult to relate to that. But I believe that as believers, you and I, we have the Spirit in us, guiding us, directing us, protecting us. Listen to 1 Corinthians 3:16. Don't you yourselves know that you are God's sanctuary? Isn't that beautiful? That means that God's in us. He's dwelling in us. So he might not be right in front of us the way that Jesus was right in front of them, but we have his Spirit in us. And that Spirit of God, as it says, lives in you. It lives in me. It lives in you. And I think that it's easy to forget or, forget to remember this sometimes, or maybe it's hard to remember it on a functional level. I know, for me, I know that God lives in me. I do, and I believe that. But it's pretty common for me I forget to operate in that. Man, you should have seen me this last week. You should have seen me last night. Just even doing this, I had all these things in my head just saying, nope, it's not clear. You're not going to be talking to anybody that's really going to identify with this, so start over, which I did not start over because that would have been worse. But I hear that. I know that I have God's Spirit in me, but I don't always live in that. I don't function in that. But here's something that we need to remember. Transformations, they're going to look different for everyone. They look different for Mary, and they looked different for Matthew. They look different for me. They're going to look different for you. They look different for all of us, and they don't always happen overnight. So in the same way that Mary and Matthew had a choice, same way I have a choice, you have a choice too. We don't have to stay trapped in any of those places. We don't have to stay stuck in routines or wonder what the what-ifs are. We don't have to question. We don't have to second guess. We just have to choose to take a step forward. So let me ask you this. What do you think would be holding you back from doing that right now? I mean, are you too busy? I mean, like, I think I just said this a second ago, we can get so caught up in life that we just don't even have time to think about doing something different. Or maybe change is just not your thing. I struggle with change sometimes. You just feel comfortable, even though life might not feel that fulfilling. I heard Pastor Rudy, he refers to this sometimes, it's called living in quiet desperation. And when you hear it that way, it's a little more motivating, I think, to, well, I don't want to live desperate, so I think it's a little bit more motivating to want to make a change. Is fear holding you back? Like I said, it can feel overwhelming to make a change. It can be scary to think about what those changes might mean or how they're going to impact your life. I'm familiar with that. I'm afraid of failure. My insecurities, they can be really loud voices in my head. You're not good enough, or you're not smart enough, or you're just not enough. But those are lies, and they definitely get in the way of being open to change, or for me, pursuing where I think God is leading me. Is your past holding you back? Maybe things didn't go exactly how you hoped in this past year. I guess we're not quite done with 2024. Maybe 2024 didn't go the way that you wanted it to, or multiple years haven't gone how you wanted them to. So you just carry around pain and disappointment or guilt. But that pain, it can be our prison. But it can also prompt us towards our purpose. I think that's something to remember. I'll even say it again because I'm trying to tell myself that too. Pain, all those things, they can keep you trapped. They can be a prison for you. But those things, those pain, those hard things, they can prompt you to move towards I do not have to live like that because I have Jesus in my life and I have purpose in my life because of Jesus. So you have a purpose. It's just time to activate that purpose. So then I think the question becomes, are you willing to take that step? And I think that's something that we really have to think about. Because if we're being honest with ourselves, I think that we can all sometimes feel that nagging of like, I should be doing something more. There's more for me. Sometimes it might even just feel like this whisper in your head. And if you're feeling that, I am telling you, you need to listen to that because that is Jesus and he is talking to you. And you do not want to ignore Jesus. Because if that's Jesus talking to you, he is calling you to something far more meaningful than what you are doing. And I can promise you, he's going to be with you every single step of the way. And I believe that so much that when I wrote this, I got chills typing it as I've been kind of reading through it. I'm like, yes, Jesus gives you meaning. Jesus is your purpose. So don't ignore that. Jesus can have a clap or two because he's Jesus. And we might not know exactly what that's going to look like. I get that. But deep down, we just know there is more to what is happening in my life than what I am letting Jesus bring out in my life. And by not pursuing it, we are robbing ourselves of a more fulfilling life. But listen to what Jesus says about that. Jesus is awesome. In John 10:10, he says, the thief comes only in order to steal, kill, and destroy. But I have come in order that you might have life. Life in all its fullness. Who doesn't want that? Jesus promises a full life, an abundant life, a life of purpose, not just existing or settling for less than what God intends. Jeremiah 29:11, it's not going to be on the screen, but it tells us that he has plans for us. He plans to give us hope, and he plans a future, not either or neither, all of them. He has hope and a future for us, for you. Because God is always doing something in our lives. Listen to what Isaiah says. This is Isaiah 43:18-19. Do not remember the past events. Pay no attention to things of the old. Look, I am about to do something new. Even now it's coming. Do you not see it? Indeed, I will make a way in the wilderness, rivers in the desert. I think a river in the desert sounds pretty darn good. But God is doing a new thing. That's what he says in verse 19. He says, look, I'm about to do something new. And you might not see it yet, but there's always something waiting for you, especially when it comes to God. And the past, all of those things, they don't have to define you or get in the way of that. In the present, or in other words, now, your current situation, that doesn't have to get in the way either. Listen to 2 Corinthians 5:17. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things have passed away, and look, new things have come. Both of those verses, they tell us to look. And I think that there is something so significant when you are reading God's word, and if he tells you to do something, and if you're seeing it more than once, then we need to be listening. I mean, that's just part of that whisper, I think. It's God going, hey, are you paying attention? Look. And in this case, he's saying that in Christ, we are a new creation. The old's gone, and the new is here. It's already here. You don't even have to wait for it. So no matter where you're starting from, just like Mary and Matthew, you have a chance to step forward into something greater, something that God already has for you. Philippians 3:13-14 says, and this is Paul speaking here, brothers, I do not consider myself to have taken hold of it. And what he's talking about here is fully knowing Jesus and being just like Jesus. But one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and reaching forward to what is ahead, I pursue as my goal the prize promised by God's heavenly call in Christ Jesus. That's a heavenly call, y'all. I think there's probably nothing better than that. And you don't have to let your past or whatever it is that you're doing or not doing get in the way and hold you back. You can press forward. You can activate your purpose that God has for you. Because we all have room to grow. That's what Paul's saying. So as I wrap this up, I'm going to leave you with a challenge. How are you going to activate your purpose in the coming year? Because again, like we saw with Mary and Matthew, we all have a choice. Every single one of us, we have a choice. We can continue to go through the motions. We can continue to stay stuck in our past and our negative mindsets, or we can choose to step into something more. More for ourselves and more for God. And that step doesn't have to be huge. That's something Pastor Zach was leading us through as a staff, I don't know how many years ago. And to be honest, I don't even remember what the actual thing was, but I just remember him saying that nothing has to be a huge step. Just take a step. Just take a little step. It just has to be forward. So maybe it's something small or something simple. Maybe you just get up 10 minutes early in the day, and maybe you take that time to pray. If maybe you don't like to pray, I'm going to pray for you on that. But maybe you just take 10 minutes and you're going to reflect on your day, or reflect on your day and maybe what God has for you in that day. Maybe you're going to choose, I'm just going to try and be more intentional, more intentional in my relationships with your spouse or with your kids or anyone in your family, your neighbor, anybody. You're just going to be more intentional, have more awareness about that. Maybe you're going to get involved in something. Maybe you've heard that little whisper and you feel like there's just something I can be doing. And I don't know what that is. Maybe it's something in your community. We always have opportunities here at Old Town. I'm going to do the shameless serve plug. But you just know that I feel like I could be doing something more. I encourage you, listen to that and take a step towards that. Maybe you're going to take a step towards healing. That's what I've been working on for at least this past year or so. I think I've experienced that. I've shared that I've experienced a lot of loss. My family has experienced a lot of loss. And that loss has really impacted my mindset and how my heart reacts to different things, and it's impacted my trust. And I know that for me, staying stuck in that mindset and that lack of trust, that was impacting my own purpose. man, I have struggled to write this year, and I know that I am called to write, but I feel like this blank slate because I'm so stuck in the things that have been hard and hurtful. I'm sure, I know I'm not alone in that. I know that some of you are going through things. I know you've experienced loss, even recently. We need to heal from that. We have that healing already in God. So I'm working on that. And just like Mary and Matthew didn't have it all figured out, I'm still figuring it out too. God's purpose, it doesn't require perfection. It requires a choice. So that means choosing to let go of anything that is holding us back and just moving forward, even without having all the answers. And I like to have all the answers, so I'm in there with you if that's tough for you. But along with this challenge, I encourage you to take any of these steps that you're going to take and take them with intentionality. Think of it like this. Players, I'm not really sport-oriented, but I know at least that they do not just show up to a game and expect that everything is going to go great. They don't just show up and hope for the best. I mean, they have practices. They train with purpose so that they understand the plays. They know what's at stake, so they're going to prepare for it. Or if you fish or hunt, which I don't do those things either, but I have seen the way y'all prep and prepare for that. I didn't even know some of those things existed that you could take with you so that you're ready to catch or shoot whatever you're doing. Or if you're managing a household or even a business, there's a lot for you to do there too. You can't just, wing it. I mean, there are things that you have to plan for, things that you have to coordinate. If you have littles, then you have their things that you have to keep in mind too. And then that's next level. And even if you have adult kids, there's things you have to keep in mind there too. If nobody's told you that, I am telling you that now. The same is true for our faith and living out our purpose. So besides just taking that step, besides activating your purpose, we have to think about our greater purpose. In other words, purpose just isn't about being busy and checking off checklists. We can't expect our lives to have true meaning if we don't intentionally pursue what God already has for us. And I'm really not trying to be mean when I say that, but I really believe that. I believe that for you, and I believe that for me. So whether you are new to living a life with Jesus, or maybe you've been there for a long time, we cannot forget what our ultimate purpose is. That's why Jesus came in the first place. I mean, Paul talked about this up to the very end of his life in what is believed to be his final letter, and he's writing to Timothy, who is like a son to him. And at the time, Paul is in prison, and he's anticipating his death. I mean, it's a literal wrap for him coming up, but he still writes with hope and encouragement. Listen to 2 Timothy 4:7. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. That's a good one. I'm going to share it in the Good News translation. I know that it's the same, but the wording it was more relatable for me. I have done my best in the race. I have run the full distance, and I have kept the faith. I just think that there's really something about just knowing that you have done your best, or knowing that you have fought the very hardest that you can. And I think what is even prettier about this is that Paul, he was far from perfect too. I mean, his life did not start off really with Jesus. And it was anything but easy. He faced so much persecution. And then the pain that, we read about, that we don't even know what that pain was. But he has no regrets about his faithfulness to God and his purpose. God's purpose. I mean, Paul's purpose and God's purpose. And I feel like I would even venture to say, I feel like Paul, he approached his faith as a journey, not a destination. What I mean by that is that it's never going to stop. It doesn't stop until we meet Jesus. Our purpose is always going to be in progress. So you and I and Mary Magdalene and Matthew and Paul and like so many others in the Bible, we are just a continuation of the story that God is writing. I just love that. We just have to choose to live with purpose. We have to choose to do our best, whether it's in our relationships, in our work, and in our faith. And God is so good. He's such a good God. He's already equipped you for it, and even more. He's just waiting for you to say yes. So, as we close out this year, and the worship team can come back, and whether you're taking down your decorations or not, and as we think about next year, it's just an opportunity to wrap up the old and bring in the new. And I just am believing that it's going to be a beautiful new year. I believe that. So don't let this moment pass you by without asking yourself, what is one small step that I can take to live out the purpose that God has for me? Because it's about progress, not perfection. And maybe some of you have heard that phrase before. I just really love it because life is messy. My life is messy. But God is always in the process of wrapping up the old and bringing in the new. And you and I, we are a new creation in Christ. So 2024 might be a wrap, and we only have a few days left of it. But 2025, that's going to be the beginning of something beautiful. Yeah, I'm going to clap for 2025 too, y'all, because I just believe that.